Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks for dialing in on what we're calling Enter the Zone, where we're going to be talking about new forms of fan engagement with some very special guests. Firstly, I'd like to introduce myself and the team. My name's Matt Coleman. I'm with the company Play Tally as well, and I'm the head of innovation. I'll be doing the emceeing today and introducing everybody around. We've got two very special guests, of course. Matt Gardner, Vice President, Digital Media and Emerging Technology from the St. Louis Blues, who's got is going to be taking us through the innovation of how they worked with the tech and some real stats behind it and the business model and his results. Also, in addition to that, the team was also announced they won in the Fortune magazine that they were #2 best innovation in America. And also joining him will be Russell Wilson from obviously the Seattle Seahawks, who's just finished up a call with the team, I believe, Russell.
Yeah, I just got done. What's up, team? I just got done. We're having these virtual meetings right now, so we're getting prepared for the season. So we've been going after. I'm calling plays. I'm getting the guys lined up. We're playing fast already. We're running 2-minute no huddle offense already. So we're rolling. But obviously, it's great to join you guys. I'm a huge fan of just sports in general, and playing in Wisconsin for that short period of time, I really got to know hockey pretty well. And then I went to NC State, where obviously in Raleigh they got an NHL hockey team too. So it's good to be a part of this, guys.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us, Russell. And feel free to ad-lib some comments. I'm just going to introduce the rest of the team before I'll hand it back to you for a minute.
Cool.
We've got David Turek, who's our international shareholder from Sydney, Australia. He's also the commissioner of the local NHL there as well. Say hi, David.
Sorry, Matt. Yeah. Good day, everybody. At least early in Australia.
Thank you. We're going to hand it over to Matt in a minute. Jason Lee Keenan, who's one of the original founders with Russell. He's up in Seattle at the moment. So he's going to be answering any Q&A. We're going to be doing the presentation, and then feel free to ask any questions to anyone on the team.
Hey, everyone.
That's Jason there. We've got Rupert. He's up in New York. He's our CTO. Welcome. Thanks for organising this today, Rupert. And we've got Brad Fatisse in California as well. He's our CEO. So look, just a few comments before we all start. One of the most exciting things probably to ever hit sports is the betting opportunity, and don't need to tell you that. The US market in the last couple of years have approved 17 states. And I remember 2 or 3 years ago when they were talking about, when is it going to happen? Now, this conversation isn't about sports betting in total, but one of the applications as a feeder to the market is a free-to-play opportunity, which Matt and Russell will be talking about. And it's a very exciting market. The US sports industry is expected to hit $8 billion in revenue by 2025. It's currently doing about $1 billion last year. And if you look at esports with the COVID-19, they believe there's going to be double the market this year to about $2 billion. And of course, without play, as Russell knows, esports is the way to go. And I'm assuming he's doing his training every day like he should.
every day.
So I'm going to hand it back to you, Russell, for a few minutes if you want to talk about the evolution of how you came up with this concept, and Matt's going to then take over and say hello and talk about his case study.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, obviously we're going through this COVID time right now. It's a crazy time for everybody, and I'm hoping that everybody's staying safe. There's a few people that I know that have gotten it. It's a real thing. So I'm praying for everybody that you guys are staying safe. And we will come through this better. It's an interesting time because I feel like I'm doing more meetings and more Zoom calls than I've ever done before. But it's actually, I get a lot done this way. So I think it's going to change the trajectory of what sports, what life, what business is going to be, how people consume content, and how we view it. And I think this is actually a perfect time of being able to craft up something that's very, very new, but also very forward thinking into what's going to be the future of sports, of not just sports though, but live entertainment as a whole. And, hence, Jason and I, we were able to, create, Tally together, our team. It's been an amazing, amazing process. And, for me, I had this obsession with live events. We actually started off with creating this app called Trace Me, and Trace Me turned into this understanding that, people are obsessed with live events. We realized that, things would go up 10x, engagement goes up 10x, when something happens live. Even if it's just my Instagram live, for example. If I go on Instagram live, it's like my numbers soar. Sierra, our numbers soar like crazy. Like anytime you watch a live NBC game or, a Fox game, CBS, doesn't matter what it is, NBA, TBS, like when we watch these games live, like we all naturally connect better than ever before. And what we've come to understand in Seattle in creating this with Tally and Jason, the team, was that there's a massive opportunity to do something that's very forward thinking and leading the way into this idea of staying engaged. Because I think ultimately that's why people go to live events. When Sierra goes on stage, people always want to come see her backstage. Hey, can I go see Sierra? Can I go watch? They'll pay extra to have this experience, to have this one, to go sit up in the front and experience from a live venue, but also they want to go see her live and backstage and this and that. And so we really kind of understood that there's a massive opportunity to really develop, a platform for this idea of live events and predicting into live events, from obviously from basketball games to football games to hockey games to all the above, soccer, and imagine a World Cup game and you could predict, and have this fun game when you're predicting the World Cup, and you're thinking about that. Imagine the Olympics. Imagine if you could predict what Usain Bolt's going to run before he takes off with a 100-meter dash. I mean, how cool would that be? Yes, we all may be sitting and we may be working, but, and maybe have, handling our kids and putting them to bed. But at the same time, we're playing this fun game and we're engaging like never before. And one of the things that I found out, and obviously playing football, people are obsessed with fantasy football. I mean, this obsession with fantasy football is fascinating, because when I came into the league, it was just really kind of kicking off and really just kind of taking off. And they have all these channels and TV stations just for fantasy football. And what's amazing about fantasy football is this, right? First thing is that we found out was that people are obsessed. Like, I'll have fans come up to me and say, I'm your number one fan. I'm your guy. Like, I love you, blah, 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 blah. And it's interesting because when you say you're my number one fan, I'm like, are you really? And then what we started thinking about was, people are like, well, Russ, you got me however many extra points, 30 extra points in fantasy football. And they may still be a Patriots fan, AKA Jason LeKeenan over here. But the funny thing is that he still has me on fantasy football. So what's interesting is he may win his fantasy football league at his work, at his family, whatever, maybe with his buddies. And it's become this worldwide phenomenon on this idea of fantasy. Well, what we think is that we could actually take this idea of, in a way, of fantasy football prediction and what we think people are going to do and how people will perform, or how, hey, you come to my concert and, hey, predict the next song that I'm going to perform, and whatever it may be, and it may earn you points or whatever it could be, the formula that we can create, which we've been able to do with Tally, and really master that in a way. We could white label it with a company or a team. We could do it with an organization. Obviously, we can do it with major events, the NBA Finals, and these massive opportunities. And I just think that there's a great opportunity to do this better than ever before. And, obviously, live is what wins. People love live. People love, I feel like, a few things. They love live engagement, live entertainment. They love winning, right? And they love, to be honest with you, they love winning money too, as well. Right. So if they can't win money, which they may be able to win money soon, which is actually an interesting part about all this. But they can also win experiences. And I think that there's this massive opportunity to not just win, from a financial perspective, but also to win experiences, but also there's just a satisfaction and to be able to enter. And let's just say you don't know anything about football, but you're just playing the game. You pick the right team, and next thing you know, you won. You can brag to your buddies like, "Yo, I won something. I won the league," or whatever it may be. And I think that satisfaction of winning is something that we're all addicted to just naturally, right? And so what we want to be able to do, obviously Tally is a new technology that we've been able to create. Obviously in Seattle, it's the world's best place to make things, obviously from Microsoft and Amazon and much more. We have great relationships with our Amazon family, from Bezos to Wilkie to the AWS family too as well. And we've had deep Jason and I have had some very, very intimate, deep conversations with their teams and the Twitch teams and such and as such. So there's a lot of great relationships there already, and they know the intrigue as well. And I think that if Major League Baseball, NHL, NBA, the NFL, if we all were able to get behind this thought process of, okay, we all know that betting's going to happen, right? That's the truth. And two is that we also know that there is an obsession with live engagement from all different venues and all different ages, right? Well, how do we play into this? And how do we create something that's never been done before to the level that we're able to do it? We have some of the best people that have created this technology, from engineers and such, and we're super flexible. We have a very flexible team that's able to do so much and create so much super fast. Like, we have the best guys and girls in the world who've been helping us create this. And so it's been a lot of fun. And, it's all about engagement. It's all about keeping the game, free to play for now, at least, and being able to play on Tally. And I think that's been a lot of great things. We've also done a pilot, actually, with the Blues, and we've had a great experience with that too as well. We've done it with some other teams too, and other things. And so I just think there's a great opportunity. First of all, I wanted to open the door to anybody who wanted to ask me a question or two. I know you guys have a timetable here, but that's kind of my version of Tally, if I could explain it to you in a very simple way. Tally is this new technology that we've been fortunate to be able to create over the past 2 years. And we fundamentally believe that we have the front door, open door, the keys to what the future is going to look like in technology, in experience, in engagement, in all live events, from concerts to shows. Imagine watching Game of Thrones if you could predict what's going to happen as it comes on for the first time, right? I mean, this is not limited just to who's going to score the next goal, right? I mean, this is very broad and a very great opportunity to do something. And it's the great part about Tally, it's worldwide. We're not limited. It's worldwide. This is a global opportunity here. When we all go back outside and get to go watch the teams we love and the games we love and the shows we love and the concerts we love, it's going to be great to actually experience it and understand it from a level of connectivity. And I think this engagement from a global perspective is going to be pretty fascinating. So I have a couple more minutes here, but I wanted to be able to open it up real fast to anybody who had a question, if anything.
Yeah, there's one question actually that I think Isaiah may be with the NFL actually. So he's probably wondering how you're going to, what's the question here? How involved will you be in the business due to your football activities?
In terms of activities like just actually practicing and stuff?
Yeah, just preparing with your career versus your Play Tally business opportunities and your other businesses, maybe.
Well, yeah, I think that's a great question. If you know me at all, I'm pretty busy. I got a pretty organized life in the sense that obviously football is my number one priority, but I've been fortunate to think outside the box. I'm not just your normal football player in that sense. Very business mind, focused and have that mindset. What's great about this to that question in particular is that we have already built the team. We've done a lot of the hard work. We have an amazing team behind us. We have some of the best engineers in the world and teams that are working on design, from designers and such. And we really put an amazing team together. So to me, I think my involvement is really continuing the enthusiasm behind what I already know and what I experience on a daily basis. And what I know and what I experience is that there's this niche for live engagement that's never been done before. And if we can tap into it like never before, and to partner up with obviously great teams and great organizations and, obviously NHL, NBA, NFL and such, there's just a massive opportunity to do this like never before. And I think that Jason's been great leading the show for us and all that. So I have a trusted team that kind of does the heavy lifting. And for me, it's I did a lot of heavy lifting early on. So now I'm in shape. And so I'm ready to play ball. So my focus is going to be on football. But I think to telling the story, to be the face of telling the story, I think it is a critical part.
Yeah, most importantly, this technology is real time and it's in game. So that's a big advantage. Look, there's just a couple of questions, Russell, here more, if you don't mind. Matt Perry, he wants to know, what do you feel the biggest barrier for adoption for this type of predictive gaming is? And how do you think we will get over that hump?
I think that the biggest, I would say the biggest weight and the biggest thing to kind of overcome is just the knowledge of it. I think, like anything, I think with this, once people love it, I think that people will be addicted to it. We want to become their next addiction. And this is a good addiction. And I think this is something that we all love already. We're already playing something that we engage. We're always on our phones when, and constantly checking up to see what the next score is. But the reality is that if we could have fun while doing it, and doing it to start off at least a free to play way, I think there's not that much complication, especially from a technology standpoint. We've built this, I think, from a marketing and really, I feel like if there's a hiccup at all, I don't even say hiccup, but I think the thing that is the most important thing that has to happen with Tally is to partner up with great organizations. I think if we partner up with great organizations, people will play this because we've made it really fun, really engaging, really exciting. And so I don't see this to be a massive overhaul of how do we get people there. I just think that people have never seen it before. And I think ultimately, if we present it in the right way, it's just like anything else from a marketing standpoint and a branding standpoint. I think we'll catch. I think it'll be like pouring, lighting a match on gas. I think it'll be really, really special.
Actually, just to add one thing to what Russell said here, I know, Matt Gardner from the Blues and Brad, the CEO of Tally, will talk about this a bit more later, but, one of the big advantages of our platform is the frictionless experience. So, Russell and I in the early days spent a lot of time thinking about how do we make this experience so easy for fans, whether they're following a link on social media or seeing this mentioned on the broadcast or seeing it on the Jumbotron or seeing it as part of your team app. Literally within 10 seconds, they are in the experience and making predictions about the game. And, as Matt and Brad talk a little bit more about the experience, that was really a key focus for us because we knew to get massive adoption, you do want to make it as easy as possible. And I think that's something we're really proud of as part of this platform.
Fantastic. Look, there is more questions pouring in, but look, I'll just mention a few shout outs here to Mark Patterson and Jerry Reed there. We can answer some of these questions later in the chapter here, but Russell, appreciate you popping in today in your training schedule, even though it's a Zoom 2-hour meeting this morning you had with the team. And feel free to put us on mute, and we're going to hand it over to Matt Gardner.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys, man. Thanks for all the help.
Yeah, and Russell, thanks. We're really excited to hear that the Seahawks are getting back to work. I think I speak for everybody that says that we are all craving real sports again, and so I think the sooner we can get back to that, the better.
Yeah, Matt. I think the last thing I'll say here, I think you're exactly right. I think it's interesting you say that because I was talking to Jason the other day about this, and just the reality is we are really craving it. We're craving it more than ever, and I think that we were so used to having live engagement and live sports and entertainment and going to the concert or whatever it may be. And it was kind of one of those things that, when you get to do it all the time, it's like, okay, cool. I can just go the next time or whatever. I actually think this is even 10 times more of a reason why Tally is so necessary, because I think that people are going to be so much more addicted to it and so much more wanting to have that rush, that feeling where, your hair starts standing up when the guy makes the catch or makes the big play or makes the dunk or makes the shot, whatever it may be. I think that it's going to be exponential in terms of the numbers of how people are experiencing and watching this. And obviously, as we're all sitting at home, I think that this is going to be a tremendous way for people to engage like never before. And so I think it's the perfect time. And if I can help in any way, obviously being a part of Tally's been a beautiful joy. So, it's been a lot of fun to be able to tell the story of it and to be a part of it. So Jason's, and I had a lot of fun, doing this whole thing. So it's been really cool. It's going to be a blast to be able to make this happen if possible. And I think it's going to be a global game, a global experience, a global engagement level. So that's the best part about Tally, and looking forward to you guys. Matt, thank you so much. Both Matts, I should say. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Russell.
Thanks, Russell.
Okay,
Right.
Russell.
See you guys. Appreciate you all so much.
And feel free to use the Q&A throughout the presentation. We're going to get to that at the end of the presentation, and Brad is going to talk to you after Matt. So over to you.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks everybody for hopping in today. I know we're all going through this crazy time together with a lot of uncertainty and a lot of not knowing what's going to happen, and so it's great to have these opportunities to share our story. I would say, I'm in my ninth season with the Blues, and out of all of the engagements we've done over the years, I think this one I've probably had the most of my colleagues across sports reach out to me. So to be able to present this story and hopefully be able to share something that might become very beneficial to you as well, I'm more than happy to do. So kind of take you back a little bit of how things got started for us. We started our first conversation with the Tally team about a year ago. I was approached by an acquaintance, gave me some information, asked if I would be interested in talking to the guys, and we set something up. We were not the first to use the platform. The Portland Trailblazers were actually using it. They had an activation called Beat the Buzzer that they were doing in their playoff series against the Denver Nuggets. So the Tally guys told me, hey, we got this live with the Blazers right now. Take a look, see what you think. So I went through the process. I signed on ahead of the game. I answered some questions, and then I watched the Blazers and Nuggets. And as I'm following along, I'm looking at this saying, wow, this is tremendous. So easy to use, so easy for fans to get tied into the platform, and very easy for people to follow along. And so we had 3 days. We basically made the decision we were going to move forward if we advanced to our next round. We were in the second round against Dallas. We were down after 5 games, 3 games to 2. So we came back, we rallied, we won game 6 in Dallas, closed out in double overtime in game 7 back in St. Louis. And so we had 3 days to prepare this thing before game 1 in San Jose for the next series. So what were our goals going into this once we made the decision that we wanted to move forward? There's 3 key things that we really wanted to focus on. The first is we wanted to have an experience that was extremely easy for fans to use. I probably don't have to tell anybody on this call, but the easier you make the barrier of entry into any sort of engagement, the more fans are going to use it. They're going to come back and do it again, and they're going to encourage others to do it. We'll go through this in a couple of minutes, but the ease of use, the ease of registration, and how quick it was to get fans onboarded and into this process was something of high value to us. Data collection is always one of those things at the forefront of anything that we're doing. And the fact that there were some validations in place to help with that process, I think was something that was very attractive to us. And the third thing in the back of our minds as a way to prepare ahead of where things are going is watching sports betting and seeing how more and more states are becoming legalized, and where we were 12 months ago is a little bit different than where it is today. And knowing for us, the state of Missouri was making progress in the right direction. So we wanted to use this type of a free-to-play experience to gauge the interest of our fan base into whether or not they would have interest in this type of a product. So the onboarding process, if we can switch to the next slide, thank you. It was really easy, and this was something that caught my attention right away, and it made me more and more interested that first night when I was watching the Blazers. You hop onto the platform, the first thing you do is you just pick a username, whatever a gaming style name that you want to have. You punch in your phone number. You're going to then get an SMS message with a code. You're just going to verify that code. And then your next step is you're going to validate your email address and tie that into, hey, this is how we're going to contact you if you do win a prize in the as part of the process. So from the standpoint of data collection, these two pieces, having that integration right away and being extremely simple was very attractive to us. We didn't feel the need at this point to collect any other information because having a validated phone number and a validated email address allowed us to tie that information back to our data warehouse and figure out who that fan was in most cases. So how we set up the game, and again, we called our game Enter the Zone. The Blazers game was called Beat the Buzzer. It's more of a white label solution that allows you guys to brand the product as you see fit and as it works into your branding and promotional campaigns. We decided that how we were going to structure the game was to allow fans to come onto the platform several hours before puck drop. And we actually, I believe initially we were for a 7 p.m. Central puck drop. Initially, we were launching the game at 4 p.m. What we found is it was better to give people a little bit more time. So we adjusted that to 2 or 3 p.m. just to have that little extra hour as people were starting to make their transition from work to home and on into games. So you would go onto the platform during that period. We would set up like 10 to 12 different questions. You see here is the example, which team will have the first 3 shots? Will this player, have, a multiple point game tonight? There's a lot of variation, and we worked closely with the tally team to structure what those questions were going to be. Oftentimes those questions were based on something that had happened in the game before in the series. So Jordan Bennington had 40 saves or something. One of the questions would be like, will Jordan Bennington have more or less, or more equal or less of 40 saves in this game? So we tried to keep it current based on how the series was progressing and what questions were most relevant to the experience. And really, we tried to just allow this as a way for fans to have fun, try to change it up a little bit. The great thing about it is you can see there in terms of the points level is the points fluctuate based on what is the response that's getting picked the most. So that question you see there, if it was 90% one team and 10% the other, if you picked that team that was at 10%, you're going to get more points. And so your odds of jumping up higher on the leaderboard change if you do get an answer that's not the popular answer. It gives you an opportunity to shift up a little bit more. And then what we did was we added additional questions during each intermission. So first intermission, second intermission, we'd have 5 to 7 questions. Again, not take up a lot of your time in case you need to go to the bathroom, get a drink, beverage, or food, whatever. We wanted to make it quick and seamless. So the leaderboards were updated throughout the night as predictions were validated by the tally team. It was a great way that you get on, you're watching during the first period. You see where you're at after maybe 1 or 2 questions. You get into the game. You don't think about it again until intermission. You go and you look and you see that you've jumped 3,000 spots or something. Now all of a sudden you're really interested and you've got a little bit more skin in the game. So you're going to be watching a little closer. And so seeing some of the feedback on social media and then some of the post event surveys that we were doing on the platform were really cool to see how much people were getting into this and then encouraging other people to join in. So how did we pull this off in 3 days? Well, as we're working alongside the tally team to set up the game, figure out the format that we wanted to do, because we were going to do it a little bit different than how the Blazers were doing it for basketball. We were also on the side working on all of our marketing initiatives. So we went out with kind of a blast of introducing the game. We did a news story on it. We did a push notification through our app. We did a database email, added it to the navigation of our app, and then obviously we went to our social media channels. As we started shifting to game days, our activations would take place about 2:00 each day, where we're going out telling people the game is now active, giving them the best opportunity to have enough time to go and make those initial predictions. We have a third-party partner that we used, and we did a Facebook Messenger bot It was a great way for any of those fans that are opted into us to receive messages through Facebook to get on the platform. And during the initial rounds, that was a big driver for us, along with our push notifications that were coming from our app. In terms of pricing for the platform, we did this two different ways. So for the Western Conference Final, we did a cumulative prize, and we actually made this a pair of 2019-20 season tickets. Big cumulative prize that would assist in driving people into the game, but we had game-by-game prizes as well. We had Western Conference Final tickets because we opened up in San Jose for games 1 and game 2. That allowed us to market game 3, 4, and 6 tickets as part of our prize package. But when we got to the Stanley Cup Final, clearly ticketing wasn't as much of an option for those game-by-game prizes. Plus, we wanted to see how much fans were influenced by season tickets being the big prize, or if they just love playing the game. So we went a different route. We didn't have the tickets available to give out. So the pricing that we did throughout the Stanley Cup Final were game-used merchandise, autographed merchandise, and then gift cards to our retail store. As you'll see from some of our results that are coming up, the change in that strategy of offering a smaller prize did not dictate whether people were playing the game or not. So in terms of results, we did this over 13 games, 6 games of the Western Conference Final, 7 games of the Stanley Cup Final. The cool thing was we were able to keep a really high net promoter score across the engagement, which was always really nice to see. Our main sources of driving traffic into the platform were a text message to anyone that opted in. That was the most critical piece, especially getting people to go back during intermissions to make those additional picks. But we were also very successful with our Facebook Messenger bot that we used to drive traffic, and then our NHL app. As we used email initially, we did a database email. Eventually, we got to a more targeted approach where we were hitting those people that had already played the game or people that had clicked on one of our messages that demonstrated that they had interest. And as you can see here, a big thing to note, this is one of 2 really impressive stats once we got through this and we were analyzing things, is that 30% of all players played the game at least 12 of the 13 times that were offered. The other big one that I always like to note is that 70% of all players played the game more than once. So those are really, really cool things that as we were analyzing, looking at the success of this thing and how it did for us, those were 2 things that really stood out, that people enjoyed this experience enough that they came back to play again. And 30% playing at least 12 times was something that was really impressive. So retention. What you see here with the Stanley Cup Final was something that improved a bit over the Western Conference Final, because at that stage we tied in the SMS messaging, which we did not do for the Western Conference Final. That allowed us to bridge a little bit of the gap between those people that were falling off once the game begins and forgetting to come back during the first and second intermission. The one interesting thing to note here on a couple of those games that are a little lower than the others that are, falling outside of the 70% range, those were actually games in that Stanley Cup Final series that we lost. So winning versus losing, as we know with most things, dictated a bit about your retention and how many people kept on coming back and did the pregame, first intermission, and second intermission round of traffic. But these are all great things to be looking at and reviewing and making some changes. Cool thing about the Tally team is we were in constant contact through this process, trying to figure out what worked, what didn't work. We tweaked things along the way just to make sure the experience was better for our fans, so that we could find, the right way to communicate, the right way to get people back, and hopefully give them just the best experience we could. And then lastly, on the results, if we can hit the next slide. Awesome. I'd love to be transparent. A lot of people ask about it. How many people did you actually have on the platform? And this really outlines it. So game one, we went into this not having any real expectations of what this would be and what it would do. I think leading up to the very first activation and talking with the Tally team, they asked me, what's your goal for this thing? And I really had no idea how well it would do. And the number I threw out there was, it would be great if we hit 15,000 unique players. As you can see here, I think it was game 4 that we hit that 15,000 number. It was good to see such returning traffic, but it was great to also see how we were adding new fans each game. And so to go through this process over 2 rounds and get 30,000 unique fans that then set a nice base for us moving forward with any other predictive gaming we do, but more importantly, sports betting, was just something as a final result of this thing we were absolutely thrilled with. Okay, and then lastly, I guess I got a couple more slides here. One of the nice things about the platform is that it does give everybody the chance to provide us with feedback once they've gone through the experience. This was great to look at and see some of the things that people were saying. It allowed us to kind of take notes of how to adjust things. And we did see, looking at some of the feedback, that and looking at the numbers, some of the demographic information is that when we were offering up things like prizes, it was stifling us a little bit from reaching an audience outside of St. Louis when we were offering tickets, because if that's what people are planning to do, if they're outside of the area and they know they possibly can't get back to St. Louis, that was a barrier of entry for them from what they saw. So we were able to use that feedback as how we shifted our strategy for the Stanley Cup final. But the really important things that we found, we had so many people saying, I enjoyed this. I got my whole family involved. The families were watching games, sitting around competing against each other, and friends were on group chats. And so we were able to really leverage this feedback to have a pretty good understanding of how this game is being played. As Russell said, fantasy football, it's become such a huge thing. Is there something in the predictive gaming sphere that you can create smaller groups like you would a fantasy football league to build something that has momentum that can be carried throughout an entire season, and obviously really be injected into your playoff campaigns? So just to wrap up before Brad jumps in, really looking at what's next for us. Where do we take something like our experience with Tally and bring it into the next phase of what we can do? Some of these things are going to transition nicely into what Brad is going to talk about, but we didn't have time to get a sponsor integrated with this simply because of how quickly we had to turn around and get the game launched. And so there's some very easy ways that we can tie presenting partners into a predictive gaming activation. And then obviously, as we're all looking at ways that we can leverage our building and connectivity that's coming with 5G and stuff, and taking that mobile experience and tying it into the venue experience, bringing it into the in-game piece, where eventually we can launch a question and it's sending a push notification directly to somebody's phone. They click on that push notification, they answer that question, and within seconds you're seeing those results on the board. That's kind of the place that we want to eventually get to, as we're tying in with our fan base. Possible opportunities with broadcast integration with our RSN, so we can again take that piece for people sitting watching at home, especially away games, and bring them into the experience. And then lastly, the big looming one that we're closely watching here in Missouri, if we do become legalized here within the next 12 months, is all of the gaming operators that we're talking to are really expressing to us how important free-to-play experiences are as a conversion tool into a sports betting product. And some are saying that, a free-to-play is going to convert 2 to 5% of that audience right in. And they covet that as a very important asset that they're looking for in terms of a partnership that they're going place with a team or a league. So that's our experience. You know, we were thrilled with how things turned out, thrilled with where we were able to get to, and you know, looking forward to getting back to hockey here, hopefully sooner rather than later, and picking this back up and kind of continuing down that path. So with that said, I will let Brad take it over.
Thanks. So just hang around as well, because I might get you to jump in on some of this stuff as we go forward. I think the Blues experience was fantastic. Matt's been an excellent partner, and you know, we couldn't have asked for more. And he said 3-day turnaround several times. I want to say that's fantastic. I wouldn't promise that every time, but it was great that we were able to do that. And I think the results speak for themselves. I think a couple of things I wanted to talk a little bit about. Some of the people on the phone have reached out to Matt and us because of these two articles that you see on the screen. The ESPN article talking about the Blues predictive gaming and how it reveals the future of NHL gambling. I think it talked a lot about how free-to-play is an on-ramp to gambling and sports betting. And then I think that Matt's being modest in terms of what he's doing for the Blues. I think that them being named as one of the top 10 innovative sports companies for 2020 because of the things he's doing and the use of our platform was, I think, pretty fantastic. What I want to do now is just quickly go through a few of the features of the platform and talk about it, because I know a couple of things, and I'm sure everybody on the phone right now, because COVID-19 has changed the way we view things. Everybody on the phone is concerned about revenue for the future, sponsorship revenue in particular, and so, you know, everything that we're doing in this, we are looking at this as being, you know, a revenue positive, net positive situation. So we make our platform extremely sponsor friendly, and I think a couple of other things I wanted to talk about in terms of what differentiates us. I saw a question from my friend Tom Edwards. You know, what makes us different than others? I think the flexibility of our platform. We have an infinite number of ways to structure a game. It's not a set it and forget it type of game. The ease of use and the frictionless engagement that Matt outlined, the ROI opportunities that I'm about to talk about, and then the on-ramp for sports betting. So I think if you look at these screens across, there's an opportunity for sponsorship to be placed in when someone comes in and does onboarding, or if they're answering a question, there's a place for sponsorship to be added. There's a whole section around the prizing promotion that could be sponsor related, and there's an opportunity to do something around the leaderboard. So there's multiple places for your sponsors to be engaged. And if we can go to the next slide, Rupert, then we can even get down to a per question sponsorship or a call to action situation. So if you wanted to have a sponsor throughout, as we're indicated here with DraftKings, you could have it per question, or you could have different sponsors for different sections of the game. And then this call to action opportunity is if a sponsor would like to have people connect digitally to them, they can download an app, or they can connect this to a redemption right within our platform. So it makes it very easy for them to get value out of it immediately, and not just name awareness. They can start to get conversion. If we go to the next slide. Now this is a new part of our platform. We think it's very powerful. Basically, the structure starts with a points wallet where we accumulate the points that are created by you playing the game. Your 240,000 points can be redeemed for different types of things. You could redeem it for a sponsor prize, or in this case, using a sports betting company, we could, through the platform and an API, connect you directly to a sports betting registration for a new account and convert those points at a market value that we, that you set as a sponsor, to start to allow people to play immediately. So, we have the ability to take those points that people create while they're playing and turn that into something of currency within your platform if you're a sports betting company. And we see that as a very powerful conversion tool going forward. And Matt talked about the 2 to 5%. We think this would even increase that as we go forward. The prediction games don't just happen when you're, at home. We think that the in-venue component is important in the broadcast integration. And, we think giving a opportunity for people to play this wherever, whenever, is fantastic, and the synergy of having it in arena is really interesting. So this is what the broadcast integration looks like. So the score box at the bottom of the screen can include our question. So the question is being played on your phone, and you can also see it being played on the screen. This is also sponsorable. And then if we take it into the arena, the arena game, it looks exactly the same thing. And if we want to, we can actually have a different game that happens in the arena or in the stadium, so that the fans could have a slightly different experience as they go forward. So that is a revenue stream that we think is really important to all of the ecosystem. It comes with traditional marketing channel sponsorship. So all of what Matt talked about earlier, you can add sponsorship within all of those channels, which I think is very powerful because you're reaching out to hundreds of thousands of people that are that particular team's fans. And then from that, we know that there's an opportunity to also leverage and monetize the data that we actually collect. So we want to build this direct relationship with the consumers. We do that in a couple of ways. If we go to the next slide, there we go. We do collect email, SMS, and that's a very seamless process, and it feels very organic as you go through it. We also have an interesting component where we have the poll, a poll question, and the poll question, everybody gets points for answering the poll question, so everybody answers them, and that behavioral information that we ask in that really provides a significant amount of consumer information for our sponsors. And we can have that poll question go through the process over a great period of time and collect actually an amazing amount of data. And then the final part of this is our enhanced data component, where we take first-party data, which is going to become, is going to become even more a significantly important as more and more of the browsers eliminate our ability to cookie. So we look at this with the first-party data being important, adding second-party gaming data so that we can have a better idea of who we're working with, and then add the third-party data that eventually we will be able to do propensity scores on the data that we all collect together. So in a final analysis, that data becomes much more valuable as we go forward. And that is a collection of all of the things that we're doing with the platform. Now, I think what I'd like to do now, I think gone a little bit over, but Matt, if there's some key questions that you think we should try and answer, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah, look, thanks very much, guys. There's just a couple of points I'd like to bring up on some differentiators between us and other products that are in the market. Is the real big thing here is that you've got the option to have it in game. So think back to what Russell said. This is actually real time. Now you can do a prop bet, or you can do pre-game, post-game results, but the in-game experience is really real, because that's when in that moment you can capture that fan for potentially a bet, if it's sports betting or if it's the brand alignment. And we have associations with real-time data companies that have the official rights for the data that we integrate into the game. So there's about a 7-second delay in latency with some of those questions if we integrate it, but that is a big differentiator for us. And as Brad mentioned before, the new data information that we pull and our points that can be converted into product sales and things like that, I think are quite unique. Look, we've just got probably few minutes left, but I'll throw this one out there to the guys on the video. Jake asks, what percentage of your audience played through the broadcast versus in venue? And I know, look, this is the broadcast side of this isn't fully well, we don't have a huge amount of data on that, but Jason, do you have any comments on how that would go?
You know, I don't know exactly in this case. I'd say one of the nice things about the platform is there's a lot of flexibility around how it's marketed. So we've worked with partners that have wanted to broadcast it primarily in venue, to promote it primarily in venue. And we've worked with partners that want to promote it primarily through digital media. And we've worked with partners that promoted it even through the broadcast itself. So often they'll do an integration with their RSN, whether they produce the show or the RSN produces the show. And so we've seen all of those, and the percentage really is a function of what marketing channels our teams use more than anything else.
I can add on to that.
I was going to ask you if you've got a comment on that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So our experience last year, we didn't have broadcast available simply because for the later rounds of the Stanley Cup playoffs are on our NBC. So we didn't have the regional sports to assist with that one. If I remember correctly, and we had a unique situation in that during the Stanley Cup final, we had sold out watch parties at Enterprise Center when we were away. So we technically had 18,000 people in our building games 1 through 7 in that entire series. If I remember correctly, and it might be a little fuzzy this, but I believe we had about 17% of our traffic coming from venues, either being advertised on our screen at the watch party or being advertised during the game of an actual Stanley Cup final game. So I think it was around 17%.
Great. And because the product's web-based, which means you don't need to download an app here, guys, it's very easy integration into any online portal, and those results can be pulled into the broadcast quite easily with a 7-second latency. So very, very easy to be done. I've got another question here from Grant Mumbach. I think that's how you pronounce your name, sorry. Do you see your product as a direct competitor or more of a complement to traditional sports betting? And I know David Turek, Canadian who lives in Australia, grew up with sports betting in Australia. You want to have a go at this one?
Yeah, no, look at I think the key thing, Matt, is that it provides a tremendous platform for us to move from the free-to-play platform into sports betting, and that's certainly been the case in Australia across a range of sports. Generally, people have started in free-to-play, had some fun with it, and moved into sports betting. And depending on the sport, depending on how it's been promoted, it can be within that 2 to 5% range. It can be substantially higher than that as well.
Fantastic. We might just have one more question here from Jerry Reed. What kind of structured accountability do you have behind us, meaning governing authority? I think he means the legalities of this game of skill. Brad or Jason, I don't know if you want to have a go at that one.
Sure. The free-to-play prediction games are games of skill, not games of chance. They're more like they're more regulated as a trivia game, and more like a prizes and contests that are regulated by contest law as opposed to gambling. So they're because it's a that type of structure. We are kind of outside of the of what I would call the strict gambling regulations.
I can just add to that. I mean, the big difference is we don't require the players to put some sort of money or consideration up. That's really what differentiates us and would make us a contest or a sweepstakes relative to sports betting, where players are actually putting money at risk. Because it's free to play, that's what really, I would say, opens up the addressable market and makes it much more accessible.
Right.
Fantastic. Look, we're just about to wrap up. Ryan, Ollie, I think you're from the NFL as well, Ryan, from memory, but look, we are in market now. The product's launched, but it's a white label product. So you don't download our application. We integrate it into a team or a league or a broadcast application with a tile URL that we manage and host. So look, on that note, thanks very much for all the speakers and the team for putting all this together. A special thanks to Matt Gardner for his presentation today, and Russell dropped in. I noticed Russell was answering a few questions on the Q&A directly to some of you out there. So thanks very much. If you want to find out more, there's Brad's email, but you can go to playtally.com.